elephant in the room that you just can't figure out why it's in the room, but you have to deal with it, and often ends up costing us a lot more as entrepreneurs and people running businesses and in different dimensions if we don't pay attention to it. And so I'm really, really happy and honored to be here to facilitate this session. Let's get right into it. So today we're going to be talking about HR as a critical factor and looking specifically at HR processes, just looking from start to finish. In the last two Centonomy sessions, I understand that we talked about recruitment and attracting the right people, and then also talked about culture, because those are the foundational elements of HR. But a lot of the success of HR is based on doing not just bits and pieces of this of HR well, but doing everything well consistently from the start to the finish, and that's why we're going to talk about them. I hope that it's going to be interactive. Please put questions in the chat section as we go along, just so that you're not saving them to the Q&A session and then you've forgotten the questions. But as they come up, it'll be fantastic if you could type them. But of course, we'll still have the Q&A session. Nyambura, just to note so that I can put my timer here. When I start talking about HR, I really go, and I can be very passionate and speak all day. Could you give me a prompt closer to when we're sort of halfway, and then maybe about 15 minutes out?
That's okay, Angie.
All right, thank you. Okay. I'm hoping this is moving along. So I think I'd already introduced myself. My areas of passion is HR management in general, start to finish, both from attraction of talent all the way to succession planning and change management. I work with individuals to be able to plan their own journeys in regards to their careers. But I also help organizations be able to create environments where they have staff who are thriving, and to be able to support the organization in its uniqueness. Be able to develop structures that will work for them. I also work as an outsourced consultant for small businesses in regards to offering HR solutions. And we can talk about that after the session, should you need that support. All right. So as we get started, I know it's been very engaging in the chat section, but if you could just quickly, just to get our minds going, if you could just quickly put this in the chat section kindly, I would really appreciate this. Or unmute yourself and just be able to contribute. That would be wonderful. Okay, maybe we can't all unmute, but if I could just see some responses on this in regards to introduction. And not really thinking too much about it, but because we're talking about HR and it's about people, usually as we're looking at the people we want to keep in the organization, the people that we want to transition out of the organization, usually it's about knowing who they are, knowing whether they fit or not. And sometimes it's good to start with a bit of, do I as a business owner, I as an entrepreneur, know enough about myself? Am I self-aware in regards to what I'm good at, what I am planning and working towards, to be able to get other people on board? So maybe just in the chat very quickly, just using what we usually call the 5-finger introduction, something that you're good at, somewhere where you're headed as a business, something you don't like currently in your business as it is, something you're loyal to, or something that you want to keep as core part of your business, and something that makes you feel small, makes your business or makes your operations feel like, okay, we're not quite there yet. I would really appreciate you sharing that. And as you, fantastic. Yeah, and as you're sharing your responses there, thank you, Susan. I see yours. You say something you're good at is budgeting and cash flow management. Fantastic. In the same way that people feel HR is, all these other things are fantastic, but they can only be done to or through people. Usually when I'm doing the work for interview coaching, sorry, my mind just went blank, interview coaching for people, I usually tell them that as you're going to sell yourself in an interview session, for example, it's not necessarily you telling a potential employer about the technical skills that you have. There's that element, but that's why you've already been shortlisted because they can see you have those technical skills. But the more critical thing is then being able to know what kind of person you are, because those technical skills reside within a person. So even the skills that we want, whether it's for sales, it's for marketing, it's branding, it's being able to have a publishing company so that you can have all these amazing value-adding, impactful books. It's being able to get those skills with the right kind of people to be able to build your team, because it's not just about delivering the output. Because if you deliver a good product but the customer service was terrible, or the people who are picking up the phone, the people who the customers are interacting with or suppliers are interacting with are not reflective of your personal values, then that will be an issue. So hopefully that gives sort of weight into HR, especially for people who just think, HR is an add-on to the organization. But the more structured you are when your organization is smallest, for some people right now, of course, maybe the business is just starting and it's just, maybe you're just two or you're just one at this particular point in time. But the better it is you do the planning and the laying out of those activities and tasks at the beginning, the easier it will be for you in future, both to advertise for roles or create roles, to recruit, to be able to train people in regards to this is specifically what you're going to be doing. If you need to expand a department, it's because you can see this particular task or this particular process has grown so much that we need more support here. For example, in marketing, maybe when you start, you realize we don't really need marketing, especially like digital marketing, where in the business, I keep coming back to this business of fabrication and welding because it's the one that I remember from the chat. But you start off, and because maybe you're in a location where there are not many other competitors, so all the construction projects around there, people know that it is you, with the attraction of talent that is needed to achieve organizational goals. Why this is critical or important to your operations, being able to get employees quickly helps you to keep with the operations timeline. So if today we need to serve, maybe we've been serving 50 clients, but all of a sudden something has happened, we've been able to change what we're doing, and now we need to serve 100 clients. If it takes me so long to be able to get staff who will help me to be able to serve 100 clients, I might lose out those extra 50 clients to a competitor who has the capacity to host and to respond to and to serve those extra 50 clients, or to get to that 100 clients. And so being able to do this quickly is something that helps you with being able to keep your timeline. And not necessarily quickly in terms of we need to be able to maybe grow from 50 to 100. Sometimes, depending on the industry you're in, it could just be seasonal. In a particular season, we need, X number of maybe hospitality staff, waiters, chefs, teachers. We need extra number of trainers, for example. And so we need them for a particular season, but I need to be able to know how I can get them and how quickly I can get them so that they're able to I'm able to meet the demands placed on me in regards to operations. And you also want to attract the right profiles by the specific needs of each business operation. Okay. One of the ways in which we think about in terms of attraction is, why would somebody want to work for you? That's something we usually don't think about. You always just think that, okay, I have this opportunity, people should be very grateful that they're working for me. But as anyone who has hired anybody or who is managing people will tell you, it's not just about the fact that you're giving somebody a job. You need to be able to think about what extra value will somebody get from working for you beyond compensation. Maybe you can put in the chat just quickly, beyond compensation, what would be the value to an individual for working for your company? Will all they have to show for it be they are burnt out, they have ulcers, they resent the industry they're in, they just want to leave, they have no work-life balance? But really, when you look at where they have excelled in previous roles and you ask them these things in interviews, when you have conversations with them, you realize, okay, this person, yes, they are good at operations and administration, but really they would be miserable and my organization will not thrive because they are more given to client-facing roles, either to sales, marketing, customer care, customer relations, PR, maybe that's really where their strengths are. So being able to allocate people to the role where they would perform the best, not necessarily just the role where this is what they have studied or this is what they have been doing in their previous role. Because at times, I mean, to be honest, in this economy, people take jobs even of things they don't like or things they're not necessarily most passionate about. But just being able to figure out that sweet spot between this is what this person is good at, this is what I need as an organization, and selecting the best people that will lead to achieving the goals and better work with others. People who are not in the place where they are gifted or the place where they are flowing and working well will always bring down the rest of your team or the rest of your employees, because they will be complaining, they will not be delivering their work well, and so other people will have to pick up the slack for them. Other people will have to be the ones to cover them because they're not being able to deliver their work well. You'll find as a business owner, you'll find as the person leading the team, that you will often have to come and rescue them. Maybe they've messed something up with a client, they've messed something up with an order, they have messed something up with something else. You always come in to rescue them. Of course, once or twice that can happen because we're human beings, but really in the long term, it starts becoming an issue, not just for them and not just for you as the person who has hired them, but also for the people, the other people that you have in the organization. Right. So how to get this right? Number one, define the elements of the hiring process. So we already have the skills and the criteria on the skills and the role definition that we have. The elements of the hiring process. How are you going to get this person? Okay. So this is the role that I have. Now, clearly articulate, this is how we're going to hire. Remember, even this task of you outlining and detailing, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. The reason you're doing it, at the beginning, it's going to be tiresome, it's going to be exhausting. But because you're thinking about, one day I'm going to get to this particular place where somebody else will be handling my HR, I want them to know what my mind is and how I go about hiring and what things are important to me in the hiring process, so that they're not doing their own thing, okay? At the end of the day, there's you hiring people, but there's also the goal of having systems and structures in place, so that even if you're not there at work, you're not there at the organization, even if you take a leave, an extended leave, or even if you outsource your HR or you get somebody to come and manage your HR, they're doing it exactly how you would have done it, because you have clearly articulated what the elements of the hiring process are. So what are you going to do? Okay, in terms of what the hiring person selection flow, designing the right application questions. What question do you need to ask somebody for them to give you the answer related to this particular industry or this particular role? Many times I will be invited to interview panels, and if I'm the one directing, of course, we'll have a discussion in regards to, okay, what kind of questions, and assigning those questions to the rest of the panel. But other times, it's just sort of for there to be an HR representative, and sort of I'm just there as a figurehead and just giving feedback at the end. But some of the questions that I asked, you're like, this person probably downloaded these questions from Google. Like, these questions have nothing to do with this role. I'm not really interested in what the candidate is going to say. I just want a particular kind of answer that sounds fluffy, but doesn't really get you to know this person as an individual, and also what their strengths. If you just ask a general question of strengths and weaknesses, and just somebody just tells you arbitrary things, they can just tell you, oh, I'm a perfectionist, or I work well with teams, etc. Or maybe I work well by myself. But maybe the role you're hiring for requires somebody who is able to work well in teams, is able to manage crisis. So if that's not a strength of theirs, or that's not an area they've succeeded in, and you have not put that in the application questions, then you will miss out on discovering or figuring out a critical element that's important for you in that particular role. I hope that makes sense. If you don't have the right kind of questions, or if you don't engage the candidate well, then you'll get general fluffy answers, which will be like, oh, I've really gotten a good hire. But then now a crisis comes and you realize maybe you have a PR firm, or you have an organization that is constantly in project management. So you're constantly in crisis, really, because things don't go according to plan. You have less material, somebody hasn't paid on time, you still need to pay the suppliers. And then the person that you hired, yes, they're really good at numbers, but when it comes to crisis, they're yelling at everybody, they have a short temper, they're, snapping at everybody, threatening others, or they can't think on their feet, they're not being able to be proactive or innovative. Then your hiring process had a problem and had a flaw because you did not establish that at the place of hiring. Define the requirements and success criteria that's related to the second one. Evaluate the applicants, so everybody who has sent in their CV or the ones who have been referred to you based on a common sort of template. So this is what I'm looking for based on these 5 CVs or these 5 people that I'm going to meet with. These are the things specifically, the same exact things I'm going to be looking. Many times we treat employees like that. And so just being able to, there's some employees who will never get it. And that's the reality. Just the same way in many situations, there are people who just will never get it, will never understand, or will never think that you are doing anything, that you're not out to get them. But the better it is and the more transparent your communication as a business owner, the more likely you are to get the buy-in, the trust, and the cooperation of your employees. So even them being able to register and that kind of thing, whether it's we're using time cards, whether it is for particular different roles, I need to do certain things. If you explain to them often the why, and why for you as a business owner, why it protects them as well. Remember, it's also communicating to them, this is the value of this activity, that this thing that I'm making you do, or this thing that we're doing in the organization, this is what it means, or this is why I have to do it, whether it's for compliance or for record keeping or for whatever it is. But also for you as an employee, this is why this is of benefit to you. Of course, if you're not doing the right thing, it will cost you, but I'm not out to get you, because it makes no sense for me to be to not serve you well, but just explaining to them and being able to take them through that, you'll find you'll get a lot more goodwill and positive engagement with your employees in that way, and then being able to cooperate.